I've been warning for so long that Anthony Albanese's, his government's green energy plans are now in chaos. Electricity prices are now killing a lot of businesses. And I told you last night, 4 business groups already warning the government, pull back on your emissions targets and all that. Get more gas and coal. We are in strife. But Energy Minister Chris Bowen, is presiding over this catastrophe, just slapped them down. He's still claiming all is well, even though today we got more warnings. You had the Australian energy producer saying, well, predictions, forecasts of gas shortfalls on the East Coast, which we've been hearing for years, are actually being brought forward now. It'll happen sooner. The former chairman of Energy Australia saying the government's target of going 82% green energy by 2030 has to be pushed back to something more reasonable. Joining me is someone else sounding the alarm, Minerals Council's Chief Executive, Tania Constable. Tania Constable, thank you so much for your time. What is the problem with these targets? How much trouble are we in?
Well, we always knew that the ambitious targets would be a problem for Australia, and what the Minerals Council of Australia members have been arguing for is affordable, reliable and clean energy. And everyone needs to do their bit in making that happen. But business and households need affordable energy, Andrew, and we're not seeing that with the current government's plan.
So what's not working then? The government said, wind and solar were the cheapest power there is. They're putting on more of it. The prices are going up. What's the problem?
Well, solar and wind are not the cheapest form of energy. We look at it in business from a whole of systems perspective. So energy sources and the fuels are one part of the equation. You need to look at transmission and distribution and all of the ancillary benefits that come with that. And if you want to make sure that you have a least cost approach, a portfolio of energy solutions with an old grid, particularly on the east coast of Australia, if we want to make sure that people can afford their power, and we can't afford our power at the moment. Households are showing a lot of strain and businesses are showing a lot of strain. One single narrow pathway that just looks at a renewables mix is not good enough for Australia. We need much more than that. And every energy specialist across Australia will say a portfolio approach is the best way to get clean, affordable, reliable power. We can't afford pet projects right now for Australia, and one narrow pathway is not good enough. It's not proving good enough for Australia. If we keep going down this path, we're just going to be poorer and poorer. The rest of the world is now setting a very good example of what you should not do. We can learn from countries like Germany. We can learn from what's been happening in Europe and not make the same mistakes.
Well, the issue is, isn't it, with wind and solar all very well, but when they don't produce the power you want when you need it, that's when you're really in the shtuck, and the extra transmission wires is really driving it crazy. Chris Bowen has laughed you off. He said it's not surprising that the coal and gas lobby wants to sell more coal and gas. Is that all there is to it, that you're just being greedy?
We run commercial businesses in mining. So the mining industry always want to make sure that that energy is affordable. Every business will tell you that. Every household will tell you they want affordable energy, and so we're technology agnostic. What we want to see is not a single pathway, but that governments look more broadly and not just take a political view of our energy system. That is a poor way of looking at energy in Australia, and coal needs to be in the system for quite some time. And I think that the Queensland government now is showing leadership in providing signals that will allow those coal-fired power stations that they own to be maintained over a period of time. Victoria, on the other hand, is I think, a basket case at the moment. They have been a basket case for a long period of time on energy. They have gas supply available offshore and onshore, and the government has not taken a decision to ensure that those gas reserves are brought online. That has left a shortage in the system, and relying on just one type of energy, just renewable energy, is not good enough, and it is going to continue to cause a problem. We're seeing blackouts occurring, we're seeing brownouts are occurring, and that will just get worse over time as we have more people in Australia, we have more businesses like data centres that require a lot of energy. The more and more energy we need, then we need to have that supply to back it up, and we need reliable supply to back it up, and firm energy sources like renewables. The single pathway that Australia has is the poorest outcome for Australia, for all Australians. We cannot afford that anymore. We cannot afford the luxury of just a single pathway. Go back to the basics, go back to the fundamentals, and creating a situation where we have all energy sources available.
Tania Constable, thank you so much for your time.
It's a great pleasure to be with you, Andrew.